Thank you for joining in, and I'm so excited to share this knowledge with you. So, welcome to the introduction to the light framework, the blueprint. And let me straight away jump into the intention and the purpose. So, I'll keep the original intention alive. The reason this framework was written thousands of years back, and which is presented through generation as the astrology, as Vedic astrology. The intention of the framework, the Jyotish framework, was to leave you with a very powerful understanding life and its way, so that you can deal with every situation. And I am going to be preserving the same intention. Now, this, as I said, is based on the oldest framework, which has been passed across generation and helped millions of people understand the situations, the problems, and figure out a solution to it. I'm not talking about the upayas. I'm not talking about what you can, the remedies, but what I'm talking about, how do you deal with that, so that you understand the direction in which the life is going. What are the focus areas for you, and where there is darkness, what are the dark spots, so that you can deal with them. It is the art of seeing light in the darkest of the spots by understanding life and its ways. So let's jump into the different aspects of this framework. Broadly, at a very broad level, there are three major components of this framework. One is at the being level, the things that you cannot see but you can feel, the emotions, how you as a human is feeling, what is your way of being, the emotions, how things are occurring to you, your moods, everything. As a person, what is your experience of life is kind of included in the being part of it. Then, of course, there is a human part of it, which is your body, how you show up to different people, what are your actions, how do you look, everything is covered in the human aspects in this framework. And then there is, of course, a culture, the environment where things are happening, where there are people, there are things, and anything which is outside you and impacting you as a human is also one of the important components of this framework. So let's get started and understand each of these frameworks so that you get an overall picture of this framework, and then you can draw on the relationship with your life. And as we move along, what I'm going to give you is an opportunity to start looking at each of these components and relate to your life, so that you have a very powerful understanding and you derive a lot of benefit of understanding the life and its ways and the relationship of different components is that. So let's get started and move on to understanding one of the components which I just spoke about, the human machinery. And when I say it is machinery, which essentially is a kind of a relationship between an input and an output. And then, of course, there's a lot of processing that happen inside. So we are going to be covering out the machinery, and we'll be talking about the different components of machinery, so that you understand how life works and you can understand the relationship between the input, output, and the processing. Okay, so humans, I just said, it's a very, very structured process. So there is an outside influence, there is an inside influence, and the human as a machinery is doing certain things which is giving certain outputs. So and as I said, human is a machinery. What are we going to be talking about are the different components of this machinery. Okay, so I'm going to be breaking down these components. Now, why do I really need to break it down and not just like talk about as one single go? So if you want to understand anything, if you want to master it, if you want to specialize it, you're going to keep breaking it until it becomes an understandable unit. Say, for example, a car. In your experience, a car could be a good car, a bad car, or it could be, an experience of the car that you can provide. But to understand the working of the car, you got to break it down. You got to have an understanding of all the components. And then as you got to understand the braking system, you got to understand the fueling system, you got to understand the suspension system and all these components. And as you start understanding, breaking it down, you get a mastery over it, you get a better understanding of the whole machinery. And in a very similar way, what we are going to be doing here is to get better understanding of the human machinery. We are going to keep breaking it. Okay, and that's the beauty of this framework, that it can really break it down at very minute levels, so that you can start understanding why it is happening the way it is happening. So let's take an example here. Let's take an example of a very simple human task. Okay, let's see, there is this person, there is us, who has a dream, who wants to achieve something in life, and he is sitting there, right there, and having and contemplating on his dream. He's doing his daily work, he's going to office, he's doing whatever he wants, he's doing, but also along with that he has a dream. Okay, so in this dream, let's say he wants to start his own business. He starts contemplating, should he plug in or should he not? What is his experience? What is his expertise level? What are the different areas that he can work on? And as long as he's contemplating, he's in a loop, understanding of, should I or should I not? Let's say he moves ahead and say, let me do it, and he plunges into the task. So he has decided to move on. Okay, if he decides not to go on, then it's the end of the flow, it's the end of the workflow. But if he decides, then there's a lot of work, there's a lot of action that is required, there's a lot of work out there that needs to be done. So he's busy doing all that activity and making sure that it really reaches the finish line, it goes live. But going live is just one part of the journey. It is a start of another journey. So once he has gone live, he's going to make sure that he preserves his dream. In the face of competition, he's not crushed over, he's not taken over. And then he is, of course, telling about his success, his going live to a lot of people, he's marketing his success. So all that could be just like as a life. These are the routine transactions of life. But the beauty of this framework is, it is each of these phases, each of this action is divided as an energy and of course has a name. So if you see where there is a dream, where you want to pursue, where you're doing your action, is one type of energy. Where you're contemplating, where you're making decision, could be another type of energy. Where you doing actions could be another type of energy. And where you're marketing, going live, keeping yourself alive, could be another aspect of energy. And that's kind of the name they were given as well. Let's say you're contemplating, not taking action, you're scared, energy is called Saturn. Where you are contemplating, making decisions, is Venus. Where you acting is Mars. Where the things coming to life is Mercury. So, and I just gave a very small example where I shared about the 4 types of energies, but you as a transaction would see them as one single unit, and they beautifully work together. Like you have a dish cooked, you have different herbs, different spices, different ingredients that you put across. But when the whole dish is ready, it has got its own unique taste. So in a very similar way, the life has different flavors. It has got different type of energies. For your experience, it's just one life, which is good life, bad life, hard life, whatever you want to name it. But as you start breaking it up, you get to see the different aspects of energy. And we've just spoken about the 4 aspects of energies, which is Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Saturn. And what is available for us in this framework is the 12 components, 12 different components that work together to give an experience of the human. So now what we are going to be talking about is the journey that you are on. And in this whole journey, there are different marks. This is where your different components are placed, this is where you get an experience of these components. So this is what has been created as a map to that journey, and what we are going to be talking about in this journey is different components. So now, as we go through the framework, as we go through each of these components, I want you to play along. I want you to look at different aspects of your life and see how they really all these components impact your areas of your life. Okay, let me pick up my life and see what is important to me. Spirituality is important to me, health is important to me, business is important to me, relationship is important to me. So all these aspects of life are very important to me, and I see and I can pick any area of my life and see how these components impact these areas. Let me pick the business as an area of my life. So in my business, I see my business is not expanding the way I want it to expand, and I'm gonna pick that area and see how these components impact that area of my life. And I want you to pick an area. I want you to get a notebook and a pen and pick up an area for yourself and see how that is impacted by all these components. So, are you on for a game? All right, so let's get started.